Tori Spelling is back in headlines after a frightening California crash sent her 4 of her children and 3 other children to the hospital. And the most important part of this story is not rumor or blame. It is what has actually been publicly confirmed, what still has not been confirmed, and why this family update landed so hard just days after Spelling was talking about rebuilding her life and focusing on her kids. For more celebrity updates and trending entertainment news, subscribe, like, and share to support Starline Daily. On Thursday, April 2, 2026, Spelling was involved in a car crash in Temecula, California, and authorities later confirmed the incident publicly on Saturday, April 4th. According to the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, deputies were dispatched at about 5:45 p.m. local time and found 2 vehicles with collision damage. Public reporting said Spelling was driving with 4 of her children and 3 of their friends when another driver allegedly sped through a red light and hit her vehicle. Authorities said everyone in the car was evaluated at the scene, and Spelling plus the 7 children were then taken to the hospital in 3 ambulances. Just as importantly, authorities also said no arrests were made at the scene. That matters because, in a story likely to spread fast online, the confirmed facts are narrower than the social media reaction. There was a serious crash. There were multiple children involved. Emergency transport was needed. And as of the latest public reporting, no one had been arrested. The injury details are also important, but they need to be handled carefully. Public reporting said those taken to the hospital were treated for cuts, bruises, contusions, and concussions. A representative for Spelling confirmed the incident when contacted. What has not been publicly confirmed, at least from the reporting available on April 5th, is which 4 of her 5 children were in the car, whether anyone remained hospitalized afterward, or whether any injuries were more serious than the initial reports suggested. That distinction matters because this is exactly the kind of celebrity family story that can quickly get exaggerated. The verified picture right now is serious enough on its own. A mother, several children, emergency responders, ambulance transport, and a recovery period that still has not been fully detailed in public. What gives the crash extra emotional weight is the timing. Just one day before the crash story broke, Spelling was publicly talking about entering what she called her power era, saying she was focused on rebuilding, reinventing, and not thinking about dating right now. In that same recent interview, she also said that she and ex-husband Dean McDermott were doing well as co-parents and described them as still being a family, just in a different form. So when this crash became public, it did not arrive in the middle of an ugly public feud or a new relationship headline. It arrived at a moment when Spelling herself was describing stability, co-parenting, and keeping the family close. That makes the story feel less like a celebrity scandal and more like a sudden interruption in a chapter she had only just begun, describing as calmer and more focused. That family context matters because Spelling shares 5 children with McDermott: Liam, 19, Stella, 17, Hattie, 14, Finn, 13, and Beau, 9. Public reporting says the divorce was finalized in October 2025, after 19 years of marriage. But more recent coverage also says the 2 have remained on good co-parenting terms. In her latest comments before the crash news, Spelling talked about wanting her home to stay family-centered, even saying she was happy for her older children to stay close rather than rush out on their own. So even though the current story centers on a crash, the broader emotional frame is clearly her identity as a mother first. That is also why the unknown detail about which 4 children were in the car matters to viewers. The public knows the size of the family and the ages involved, but it still does not know exactly which children were part of this incident. There is also an earlier parallel that longtime followers will remember. This is not the first time Spelling has been in a publicized car accident involving her children. In 2011, while pregnant, she was involved in another crash while driving her 2 eldest children to school, and she later said paparazzi pressure contributed to that incident. The reason that older moment matters here is not to collapse the 2 stories together, because the circumstances are different. It matters because it reinforces how quickly car incidents involving Spelling and her children become public stories, and how family safety rather than celebrity spectacle becomes the central issue, almost immediately. Back then, the public focus also turned to whether the children were okay. That same question is driving the reaction now. Career context also helps explain why this crash drew immediate attention beyond celebrity watchers. Spelling remains a familiar public figure from Beverly Hills, 90210, and from her more recent podcast and reality TV visibility. But in the past several months, her public image has leaned heavily into reinvention, family life, and post-divorce rebuilding. She had recently been at the 2026 iHeartRadio Music Awards, and in her most recent interview, she framed this stage of her life as a second chapter. That means the crash story landed against a backdrop of personal reset rather than professional controversy. And in entertainment, coverage that often changes how a story is received. Instead of asking what drama comes next, viewers are asking the simpler and more human question: how is she, and how are the kids? As of the latest public reporting, that fuller recovery update has not yet been publicly provided. So the clearest confirmed update right now is this: Tori Spelling was in a Temecula car crash on Thursday, April 2nd, while driving 4 of her children and 3 of their friends. Authorities said everyone was evaluated at the scene. Spelling and the children were taken to the hospital in 3 ambulances, and no arrests were made. Public reporting described injuries including cuts, bruises, contusions, and concussions. But the identities of the 4 children in the vehicle and their exact current conditions have not been publicly confirmed. That is where the story stands as of Sunday, April 5th, 2026. The next real update to watch for is not online speculation, but a direct statement from Spelling, her representative, or local authorities about recovery and next steps. Thanks for watching Starline Daily.